Hey guys, welcome back. Hope you're doing well. And if you're new here, I'm Jim. Thanks for stopping by. Today I'm in On1 Photo Raw, editing a photo that I took like 10 or 12 years ago, something like that. But it's a cityscape at blue hour, some nice lights on and that sort of thing. But I wanted to kind of create a richer looking scene overall. It's fairly flat, as raw files tend to be, but I really wanted to pop some of the color, do a little bit of shift, and I did some fun, kind of different and creative things here that really got me to my final result. Here's the photo. Now, I've already gone into develop. I hit this AI auto and then made a few refinements to get it from that, which is the original photo, to that, which is basically just includes the edits you can see here on the right-hand side in the development module. So far I've got a pretty decent looking photo, but what I want to do is get into effects and do kind of some of the magic that On1 gives me the power to do. So I'm going to start with dynamic contrast, and what I want to do is get into masking, and I'm going to use AI quick mask to isolate the sky from the foreground. So I'm going to come in and I'm going to do a pretty slow and careful job, because there's so many little crevices here between these buildings. You want to make sure on scenes like this that you take your time and get it right. So if you're not familiar with AI Quick Mask, as you can see here, I basically come in and paint what I don't want the edit to apply to in red, which is what I'm doing. And then what I do want the edit to apply to, I go up here to keep, and then I come in and paint that in green. So I'm going to do that, and then we will keep going. Okay, and I move my mouse all over the place, just trying to give it information. Like I said, on scenes like this where you have a whole lot of stuff in terms of like not an easy horizon, a very complicated one like this, I tend to go fairly slow and take my time. But once you've kind of isolated that, just hit apply and see what it comes up with. And look at that, I mean, it did a really good job. The thing you want to be careful about, like I said, the reason I went slow, is all these little crevices between the buildings. If you don't isolate those, the shifts in color that I make later, which are specific to the sky, the old sky is going to show through and it's going to look kind of funny. I'm actually going to shrink my mouse, go in, make a couple of additional refinements here, and then we'll keep going. All right, I think that looks good. I'm going to go ahead and hit done, and I'm going to copy that mask, because one of the great things, of course, about On1 is you can just make these masks quickly and easily, and that whole thing took me a couple of minutes. But then you can lather, rinse, repeat, you know, copy, paste, invert, all that. So I've got that copied. I'm going to bump up the small to about a 10 or 11, and basically what I've done is added dynamic contrast to the foreground, which is the lawn here as well as the skyline itself. That's what it looks like. But now I'm going to go in and use dynamic contrast again. This is something I do frequently. I'm going to paste the mask but invert it. So if I view, you can now see my mask is applying to the sky. And what I want to do here is kind of just move all these sliders to the left, which just kind of softens it up. But I also take the vibrance and drag that to the right, and I go to like mid-30s, 35, 36. So basically I softened up the sky with this implementation of dynamic contrast, because of the mask isolated the sky for me, and I reduced the dynamic contrast. Well, I did. I softened it up by reducing it, and then I added vibrance. So before and now. So I think it's looking pretty good. But this is where I get into three different filters that I use that really give me a nice overall look to the photo. The first one being color balance. And once again, I'm going to put this into the sky only. So paste and invert. So again, white in the sky, so white reveals. This edit with color balance is going into the sky. And instead of doing all the customization that I normally do here, I just went and got a preset, which is this vivid warm. And I like that a lot. It really shifted the sky for me from more of a blue hour look to more of kind of a sunset kind of look. I really like how that looks overall. So that was the first one. The second one is kind of an odd choice, and that's channel mixer. I used that in another recent video. And what I did here is I actually, again, use a preset, this time vivid red, but I'm reducing the opacity to about 50, and that's applying across the entire photo. Let me show you the before. There it is, and the after. I like that. It really pops those red tones. It looks nice in the city, also looks nice in the sky. So one more time, before and after. But at 100, it was way too high. So a cool thing, of course, about On1 is you have this opacity slider on all the filters. So just come in. If you kind of like it but don't love it, try the opacity. It does help. And the third one is I came in with photo filter and did something similar. Once again, a drop down over here. I grabbed the polarizer and I dropped the opacity to about 70. That gives me a nice look overall, kind of creates a little bit more contrast, a little bit richer, a little bit darker kind of feel, which I like because it's basically a night shot. I mean, it's blue hour, all the lights are on, so you know, it's creating a little bit richer overall look. So there it is before, there it is after. I like adding contrast, which is kind of what this is doing in terms of how it's impacting the photo. But I like adding contrast because there it's a little bit flatter, and now it looks, again, a little bit more rich overall. And then I wrap this up with one last filter, which is color adjustment. Here I go into the green, and I'm basically pulling the saturation and the brightness down. That foreground of grass is just too saturated and a little bit too bright, so I'm pulling those down, just kind of seasoning that to taste. I think something about like that. And then I go into the orange, and I'm just pulling the saturation down just a little bit. I don't want to go too low because like something like that where it looks totally desaturated, I just want to pull it back a little bit because that photo filter really popped that quite a bit, so I'm trying to control it a little bit more. So here's color adjustment. There it is before, mostly noticeable in the foreground with the greens, but also some in the orange lights in the city, and after, a little bit more control over the photo. And that's the edit. I really feel like I did a nice job here. Was able to take a fairly flat photo that was definitely blue hour with a little bit of color in the sky, and with the different edits I did between color balance, channel mixer, and photo filter, I feel like I really brought that one to life. That's how I did it, my friends. And the overall before and after, flat, kind of boring, lacking a little bit of punch. Now definitely more punchy, more colorful, a bit more contrast. Overall, just a richer looking photo. All the power and all the beauty and all the control that On1 gives you allowed me to really take advantage of those tools, put them in the places I wanted them in this photo, and get the results I wanted, specifically with those three filters, which is color balance, channel mixer, and photo filter, and of course the masking, allowing me to selectively put those edits in the right places. I just love it. That's how I did this one. Thanks for watching, my friends. I hope it gives you some ideas for your own edits. Thanks for watching. I will see you in the next video. You guys take care of yourselves, and until then, adios.